everyone, welcome back to the channel. We finally got a beautiful day that we can work outside, so I am out of my soap studio and into some much needed sunlight. So we are going to get as much done as we can today. When you get days like this, you just push it all into a day if you can, so I'll try to include as much as I can in this video. But what is our plan today? So we've got to get our spring garden going. We haven't planted any seedlings or anything, so the plan today is to get some soil blocks made with the soil block maker. So I'll show you how we do that and what plants we're going to start. We're actually experimenting. This is experiment year 2. Last year, if you've been part of the channel for a while, last year we did our garden up on our back deck. And we had to do that because we had just moved in. We didn't really know the terrain of the property yet. Well, we ended up getting a ton of rain that spring in the area that we were going to put the garden in the ground. It flooded. So if we would have planted there, everything would have been washed out. So we went to a plan B late in the season and we did bags and we put them up on the deck and they did great. We had a really nice small garden out there. It was great. But with the water saturating the bags and going on the deck, eventually it was going to hurt the wood of the deck because it's not sealed. So this year we are going to try something new. So actually right outside our back fence, we have some nice soil out here. We're going to turn the ground. James has to cut down about 15 trees though in order to open it up a little here and get a little more sunlight in. We are going to take our garden around the perimeter of our chain link fence, and we're going to use the chain link fence to train up some loofah gourds, our tomatoes, you know, all that good stuff. We're just going to plant along the fence line. We're going to do a couple rows of corn because corn was amazing last year and it actually did really good in the bags, but I think it's going to do even better in the ground out here. So yeah, that's kind of everything we're going to do. I'm going to start out, I've got to restake the Premier One fencing. We had all this rain the past few weeks and so it washed out some of the areas in that paddock, so I've just got to straighten up the fencing, get it turned back on so the goats can enjoy some of the sunshine today too. And then I'm going to work on the soil blocks and James is going to work on the trees, so I'm going to bounce around between all of these things and you are along for the ride, so buckle up. We're going to get busy, so follow along. I turned the fence on, but I probably should have fixed the fence before I turned it on, so let me turn it back off, fix the fence, then turn it on the proper way. Hopefully you can hear me. It's a little windy out here, so I think we have rain coming in, which is why we're moving a little extra fast today. Just gonna get what we can done. Anyway, so here is our handy dandy soil block maker. I got it off Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description if anybody else is interested. You've probably seen these on other channels, but basically I mixed up my well, we've been keeping our goat droppings, and we've got compost, organic compost in there, and soil. Got that all mixed up together, and then I'm going to soak it down really good with the water hose because you want to make it kind of a wet, pasty consistency. And then you're simply going to pack it into these squares. Once it's all packed in there really firm, you simply push it out. It has these little divots. These divots is where you put your seeds, so it makes it really nice. I'm not sure how many I need, so I'm just going to make as many as possible. I've got a few trays over here. I'm just going to pile them on, and then when I get to the seed portion, I either have to make more or I'll have extra, or however it turns out to be. But I'm just going to focus on making the blocks so that then I can move on to the seeds, because I've got to go through all the seeds that we have. I didn't purchase any more for this year except for some extra corn, because we still had plenty from last year. But will they all germinate? That's the question. We don't know, so I'll make extra. And then of course I will overseed it and thin it out to pick the best, strongest ones for the season. But anyway, that's basically how the soil block maker works. So you can follow along as I put these together. Got to wet it down. Got my gloves on, even though I do like getting my hands dirty. It's still a little cool out here, so I don't want to get too wet. But anyway, let's make these. All right, I pretty much have it mixed up. You just want it kind of, well, let me just show you. You just want it pretty wet. I'll show you here. Whereas you squeeze it, you're gonna see some of that liquid come out. Yeah, somewhere. You know, like mud, where it will retain its shape, and then that way when you put it down inside the mold, it will retain the square. So, sorry, he's cutting down trees and Lark is going crazy. But anyway, so now that I've got the soil, the consistency that I'm looking for, I can start putting it into the soil block maker itself. So let's move on to that. All right, like so. And like so. So, instead of moving the camera. So just some perfect little squares. So I'm going to keep just doing this until I fill up this tray. I've got a few other trays. I'm just going to go through this whole bin and see how many blocks I get out of that, and then I can proceed to planting. I don't know if I'm going to get to do it today because it looks like it's going to rain, but I'll get as much done as I can. All right, we'll just come get out of the wind for a second so we can talk about the soil block. So I think that made up 32 times 4, so 128 soil blocks altogether. And of course I still have a lot more soil in the wheelbarrow to make more, but I think for today I'm going to stop there because I've got to go through my seeds and see exactly what I want to plant this year. Besides corn, of course, and loofahs. Definitely loofahs for the soap. But anyway, so let's talk about some pros and cons of the soil block. What would be a pro? A pro is you don't have to buy all those individual seedling containers and then also have to fight to get them out of the containers when you want to transplant them into your garden. Last year we got the soil block maker. It was already through the season, so we only used it for some of our fall items instead of the spring items, so we didn't get to use it for all. So we had to use the regular little seedling containers, and what you find with those is as you try to transplant them, the delicate root system can get torn. You can kill your plants by doing that. So it's not like a big issue, but these are nice because you can take the soil block and put it directly into the area you want to plant it, whether it's in a container or in the ground, in a bag, wherever you're putting it. So that is a definite pro. Another pro is cost, because you don't have to buy all those seedling containers. You're not out that money, so that's nice too. You get the initial cost of the soil block maker, and they do make them in different sizes. You can get, I think, 1-inch cubes, and this is the medium size that I'm using, and they also have a larger one. I haven't looked this year. They may have even more than that. I don't know, but you can check that out when you click the link in the description if you want a different size. So cost, I think we paid for ours, it was $32 or $36 when we got it last year. You'll have to check and see what it is this time of year. But when you think about the cost of all the trays and the lids and all that setup you have to do, and that you can use this soil block maker year after year, you just clean it really good and store it in a dry place over winter, you really get your money's worth eventually out of it. A con is the time. It does take a little bit of time to make those soil blocks. So making the ones that I did, I think it's been about 30 to 40 minutes I've been sitting down there making those soil blocks. So you do have to commit some time to it. But then of course you can make them ahead of time and just set them aside, because once you put the seeds in, you can spritz them with some water to moisten them back up, and then they'll be good to go. But you do have to invest a little time. Another thing is, if you don't get your soil consistency right, they can crumble and fall apart. You don't want that to happen, so you got to make sure they're packed down and they're really good. Kind of like a thick mud consistency, I guess, where it will hold its shape when it's pressed into the mold. So it's a little bit of a learning curve, but nothing, believe me, if I could figure it out, you all have it made. But, so yeah, that's really all I could think about. So you save a little on money. It's easier to transplant because you transplant the entire block, and the con is the time that's invested in it, because it does take a little time to make those blocks, but I don't mind doing it. Again, you got your gloves on and the sun is shining, the wind is blowing, it's a beautiful day out here. So it just gives me an excuse to get some vitamin D in, so I'm okay with that. But anyway, that's really it for the soil blocks. I'm not going to be able to plant the seedlings today with the weather not cooperating, and James needs some help with these trees back here. He's got a lot cut down, and now we've got to delimb them and get all that moved out of the way, so that here in a couple weeks after the seedlings take off, we can start actually transplanting into the new area we're going to call a garden this year. So really, I think that's all I can think of. So thank you all so much for following along today. If you have used the soil block maker, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, or if you have been thinking about one, what's held you back from getting one? Tell me also in the comments. And if you do end up getting one using it this year, I'd love to know your thoughts on it and how it worked for you, and if you would do it again the following year. But as always, hit that subscribe button, hit like, and we will catch you on the next video. Thanks everybody.